The fifth line day. Today we are exploring gate 37, which is the gate of the family and friendship, and the fifth line is called love. The 37.5 is an unusual line. It is the only one of the 384 lines that is called love. And it is in the only gate, the only line, sorry, that speaks specifically of hatred, actually, as opposed to self-hatred. The lifetime learning says a natural and unaffected devotion to the family. And it's quite funny that this is an introduction line, really, isn't it? Because it's not something that you get from the beginning. You have to learn it. You have to grow into it. And the way in which you're going to grow is to see that you're totally dependent on the emotional wave that is operating through you. That 37, it's always going up and it's always coming down again. And remember that fifth lines are about seduction. Love is the great seduction of community and family and affection, which is quite a nice seduction, really, isn't it? Solar plexus is an awareness center, and you may know that all of the awareness centers, they carry a fear of some kind. The splenic center has our primary survival fears. The ajna center carries fear as a mental anxiety. And the emotional system, the fear here, it expresses as nervousness. And that nervousness infuses everything. The nervousness here in the 37 is going to be that they will not be friends with you, or that they are friends with you and it's not going to work, or the hope that that might bring, or the despair that that might bring. There can be nervousness around all of those things at any given moment, because that's the movement of the wave. The exaltation says natural harmony and perfected sharing. Natural harmony and sharing possible through friendship. Now, the nature of the fifth line is that of the heretic general, who is only of value when they are projected on by the rest of the family. And it's a projection that builds up and it builds up, so that in the time of crisis, that fifth line can be called upon to take control with their practical solutions. In other words, the fifth line here has to be very, 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 very careful about when to engage in friendship, and that the friendship is only necessary. The family, the community is only necessary in a time of crisis. Ra used to describe the general as the being out there on their farm when they're not needed. They're minding their own business, looking after their pigs and their cows, and even if they can see a crisis is looming, they stay out of the way. They just wait for someone to come and say, hey, can you help? In the 37.5, the general has to be able to come into the city, to go behind the city walls in order to seek protection, coming into the community in a time of crisis, otherwise staying away, because the general has no power unless it's a time of crisis. And why is this the case? Because the longer that you know a fifth line, the more familiar you get with that fifth line, the more holes you find in your projection about them. It is said about the fifth line that they do so well at the beginning because the first projection is always a positive one. Ra used to say about the fifth line baby, that it would be put in its mother's arms and, oh, beautiful, the best baby there ever was. I love this baby. And then the baby throws up and it, does whatever babies do that maybe isn't quite so nice, keeps them up all night. And then the mother's like, this baby. And then the negative projection comes in. So it's keeping, the closer you get to the fifth line, the more you see holes in that. So that's why they are advised to keep their distance until they are called upon for their sphere of genius, which is, of course, that time of crisis. So the basis of any hexagram can be discovered in its first line of introspection. This is the foundation of the hexagram. This is what the hexagram is all about. So here, the 37, the friendship, the family, it is all about the mother, father. They are the foundation of family. But how society wants to see family, this is always seen through the fifth line. And how society wants to see the family and friendship is as love. But love in the wave becomes hate, because essentially they're two points on the same stick. In the detriment, it says emotional dependency that often turns love into hatred. The possibility of dependency turning love into hate. And this is the only place that hate is mentioned in this way. Imagine two people, one of them has the 37.5 in a defined solar plexus, and the other has a 40, and they meet, and the 37 is at the good end of their wave. It feels really good to the 40, and the 37.5 will naturally make friends in a time of crisis. So they meet in aura, they feel terrific. And even with the undefined solar plexus, that 40 is going to feel all the sexuality and all the pleasure, and it's something they want to hold on to and keep because it feels really good. But at some point, the 40 discovers that the 37.5 is emotional, and they go down in that wave. This is a line that can create great resentment. It's a projector channel, so there's always the possibility for bitterness and resentment here. But the 40 in this situation, it selfishly bargains for the love and only for the love. And so when the other side comes out, it automatically responds with hatred. You made me so happy, and now you make me feel terrible. You might imagine that if you're carrying the 37.5, you have a problem. But that's not true. Oh, yes, what it is going to say to you is that your responsibility is to be really clear in your bargain with the other. And again, checking my Ravi Ching in case you wonder why I'm looking down. And of course, the second line, which the fifth line is in harmony to, is called responsibility. So this is where we have that link between the 2 and the 5. So it's your responsibility to make sure that your bargains are clear. Because all emotion people, we have to be careful of this. Any bargains that we make with those others who are important in our lives, we must make sure that they respect our emotional nature, especially if they're open emotionally. They need to know this about us so that they don't get caught out, so that we don't get caught out. And so that the conditioning that is inherent in the emotional wave doesn't start to make things really messy. And so they don't try to bring us up when we're feeling down. They don't try and push us down when we're feeling up. Because this is something else that can happen that often isn't talked about with the solar plex, is that when you're up and you're feeling good, that can be really difficult for an undefined solar plexus to deal with. It can be too much. And so they can, put a lid on you. Anyway, fifth line's always about projection. So it's not about the emotional system in the 37.5. It's about how everybody meets it, how they react to it, because they are expecting love. Okay, so it's that projection field. If you want to have a love-hate meter, you can see it in families. It's that thing, isn't it? If you think you're enlightened, spend the weekend with your family. If you want to see a love-hate meter, go with your family. Because you love your father, you hate your father. You love your mother, you hate your mother. You love your brothers, you hate your brothers. And it's just, all of that. It comes, it goes. It's just the wave. And it carries on for a whole lifetime. Learning natural and unaffected devotion to the family is a lifetime process. So the grounding is, of course, coming through the fifth line of the 40, and the line is called rigidity. Perhaps the support here is in the rigidity of adhering to the bargain, to creating a correct bargain in the first place, because this, of course, will save a lot of angst in the long run. Very often this bargain is going to support the person who is undefined, because they're going to feel the wave so much more than those who are defined, because for us it's consistent, it's just who we are. This is the nature of openness. We absorb, we amplify through our openness. So keeping the bargain clean actually supports everybody. One of the things with the 37, and maybe it's the 37.40, is that if you tread on the bargain, if you trash the bargain, that is a really good way to annoy that you will see the ratchet pretty quick if you do that. If you tread on the loyalty, of a 37 or a 40, actually, then you will feel the power of that of that ratchet. Yeah, it's an interesting kind of dynamic or mechanic. I mentioned a couple of transits back. I'm going to be doing a collaboration with a friend of mine called Michal, and on a series on the solar plexus. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. She's open emotionally. She's a generator, and I'm a defined projector. And so we've got really interesting experiences. I live with an open emotional, sorry, yeah, open. You know what I mean? Not an open emotional person, but an open solar plex. I live with an open solar plex. And Michal, she is open. She lives with defined solar plexus. So she's got that thing. We've all got this. It's anyway, what we talk about is so juicy. So if you would like to come along, and we're having a webinar to promote that, because we're actually going to do a little, it's not a course in that you're going to get a certificate at the end of it, really. It's a deep dive. Everyone does deep dives these days, don't they? It's a deep dive into the solar plex. Um, yeah, if you're interested, anyway, if you'd like to know more about it, we're still working out all the details. But please sign up for my newsletter. If you go to bambaji.com, you can sign up for the newsletter, and then you'll receive more details as we work them out, really. But it will start. I think we're thinking that the webinar will be on the 24th of March, maybe something along that. Anyway, you are invited if you would like to come. My 37 smile, would you like to come? So my fourth line friendship pulling you in. So if you would like to, please do. We're going to have fun with it. Anyway, the moon has been in gate 55 since 8:58, the individual gate of spirit and abundance. And it stays in the solar plexus as it moves into gate 37 at 1817. And I'm not really going to say much about that because it's our current sun gate. We know what's going on in gate 37. The moon is just bringing maybe a little bit extra focus to that. And then it moves into 63 at 3:31 tomorrow morning. And this takes us up to the head center, to the logical collective gate of doubt. And there is a pressure in this gate to question everything. It wants to know why and how, and there can be a lot of noise in the head of someone with an active 63. It's the pressure that fuels the logic process. It queries whether an answer is actually correct. If it's verifiable, it can lead to mastery. But is it also going to lead to more correction? Does it actually work? This is what's all coming out of the 63. Lovely. Thank you very much for joining me with this one. And yeah, top of the hexagram tomorrow. So I'll see you for the line 6 then. Until then, as always, gosh, love yourself in this line of love. Love yourself. And go gently.